All right, welcome back everybody to Athlete Enlightened right here on Right Radio. So today we got a pretty interesting topic too. So I know last week we talked about strength and basically what makes up strength and why that is so important and basically the different ways that is expressed. And today we're talking a bit more about a concept we briefly touched on, which was power. And power is something more innate, something that's not actually more generated as much as it is something that is just about staying in its original state. And one of the things that is maybe linked to this in terms of physiology is testosterone. So, we all talk about testosterone, the hormone that assists us with building muscle, the masculine hormone, the counterpart to estrogen. And I think that this is really relevant to touch on because so many people nowadays talk about like, oh yeah, I need, my testosterone to go up and I need this and that, blah, blah, blah. And, we talk about it as if it's almost something that, like we see in a modern day or even in like, Rocky movies. It's something you can just shoot yourself up with, like take steroids or TRT or something like that. Even though you can do that, which I'm not recommending because I don't support that, I think the best way to do it is internally. It's almost like alchemizing the system. We can go to the first image actually, and we can look at just how this actually presents itself in some ways. So we can see here that testosterone affects various parts of the body. It affects the brain, muscles, bones, skin, sex organs, bone marrow. So all of these are really linked to how testosterone is utilized and what happens when it's utilized efficiently. And we want to make sure that we actually optimize these things. And like I said, though, I don't support taking supplements to, help boost testosterone or, taking steroids or TRT specifically as well. There are some things which indirectly as a supplement support it, such as, I don't know if you're familiar with DIM, but it's basically a supplement which helps optimize your estrogen metabolism. So this is really relevant because it helps you continue to perpetuate that healthy testosterone level. So instead of it getting affected by things like microplastics or whatever, what DIM does is help reduce that factor in your body in a very natural way. And the supplement DIM, though you can get this from foods such as things like broccoli, I would say that DIM is one of the few supplements I would actually say that actually, in fact, works, and it does work effectively. And one of the things I'll just note from it, and I'm not saying that you have to take this supplement. I always recommend and preach that you guys find ways to basically get these results as naturally as possible. So eat broccoli if you want, but in essence, though, one of the things I find is your muscles will look more toned, your abs will look more toned. Basically, your body's skin will become almost tighter, as it shows here is one of the benefits of it. So testosterone really relates to that tighter skin look. And that's why if you see people taking like artificial testosterone, like testosterone replacement therapy or steroids, their skin looks like it's been like stretched back, like somebody has like pulled the sling back on their muscles or on their face, right? So, but the point behind this is that more efficient testosterone in the body and in the system and it being utilized better increases all of these beneficial factors that should happen optimally within the body, such as, like it says here, brain functioning well, muscle growth, muscle protein synthesis is important, whatever. And one of the reasons why I'll bring this up too is because I'm not going to get into this in this episode, but things like drugs and alcohol and whatever, those all affect your testosterone as well. It said like drinking, if you have like for like 40% alcohol, which is like 80 proof, if you have like 3 drinks of that, your testosterone is down by like 33% and it doesn't rise back for like 72 hours or something like that. So, or like a day and a half or whatever. So basically if you go to the gym in that time, you are still building muscle, but you're doing it with subpar muscle protein synthesis, which is important because you want muscle protein synthesis to support growth. So, but all of those processes like muscle protein synthesis, like GH, like testosterone, those are all interconnected and linked. You must think of your body as something that is a network of connected instruments working together in harmony. I've made this analogy so many times. If you've watched my previous channel, Moonstruck, is that one of the things to note, especially with the human body, is that it should ideally operate like a well-functioning band, like a well-oiled machine. You know, if you have a band and, like, you know, they're all playing the notes at the wrong time, and, you know, somebody can't read the music, and, you know, some guy's playing too loud and some guy's playing too quiet, then, you know, the band sounds like garbage, right? But if you're have a band that's actually succinct and they're playing well and they're all in harmony, the band sounds much better because they are meant to play together. And this is the same concept which I'm elaborating on here, is that all of these functions in the body should be working in harmony. They should be working together. And the big thing with like testosterone especially too is a lot of people think that, oh yeah, well, testosterone is only for males, estrogen's only for females. It's not exactly true because they relate to different functions of the body. Yes, they're specific to, you know, what sex you are and whatnot. Obviously, if you're a man, you're going to have more testosterone. Obviously, if you're a woman, you're probably going to have more estrogen. And the basis of understanding this is important, but if you're a girl and you go to the gym, you're still going to have testosterone. It's still going to be boosted by going to the gym. But understanding that all of these hormones are meant to function optimally within their like range without taking, like I've said already, without taking things like steroids, without taking TRT. And one of the reasons why I preach not taking these is because a lot of people see this as a shortcut, and really it is. Unless you're in like something like, you know, bodybuilding like Arnold and all those guys were, like, where you basically need that in order to compete. You don't need that. There's so many of these goofballs on like TikTok who are taking like steroids and TRT even though they don't need it, just to prove to like themselves or like, you know, social media that, hey, I can look good in the gym mirror. It's like, is that all you wanted to achieve? Like, you're not even trying to like be you know, some bodybuilding champion or whatever. Like that's it, you know? So you really have to say, what am I using my body for, and am I using it to the best and most efficient of my ability? Because if you're really dedicated to the journey of fitness, then something as superficial as that shouldn't matter to you, because it should be about increasing my longevity, making myself a combative opponent in any realm that I'm basically in, and how do I become strong enough to overcome obstacles in life and build a mentality which is essentially fearsome in whatever endeavor I'm engaging in. And doing so improves your testosterone, improves all these things. Because one of the things commonly overlooked by guys nowadays, especially in relation to how to improve testosterone is increased, and its main purpose is making effort feel good. And the thing with that is that when you do hard things, your testosterone will go up. Because, you know, that aggression you feel when you're doing that last rep and you just get it up, and you had to push all of your energy, all of your chi, you had to channel into the bar on bench press or whatever. That is raising your testosterone. That is what is going to get you over that hurdle. If you want to raise your testosterone, there are ways to do it naturally, and you don't need to resort to like whatever like BS supplement, right? You can use things to assist you, but I always say, do not rely on anything. You want to be self-sufficient. You want to be as natural as possible. You want to go to the gym and know that you can win with your willpower alone. You want to be able to know that, if I don't have, you know, XYZ with me today, you know, even the basic things that people trumpet, pre-workout, creatine, caffeine. If I don't have those, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to the gym. I'm still pushing 100%. I'm still doing everything necessary for my win, and I will win because I don't require any of that to do it. And once you kind of accept that within yourself, you are on to a new way of basically engaging with fitness. And like I said, that adds to your longevity. There's a spot within the brain which actually was talked about by Andrew Huberman when David Goggins came on his podcast, and it's called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, and it's larger in athletes for one, but basically it's grown by essentially doing things that you do not want to do, and doing them understanding that this is hard, I don't want to do it. So if you get up at 3 a.m. to run, which is kind of like, crazy or psychotic, because I don't even do that. But the thing is that if you do that because you do not want to do that, you will increase this part of your brain. If you do not want to go to the gym and say, I don't want to go to the gym, but I must go, and you go, this part of the brain becomes bigger. And just like that, over time, doing things you do not want to do, this part of the brain will grow, and it's shown that this part of the brain is also associated with having longevity of life, having more vitality in your system. And like I said, it's bigger in athletes, so, surprise, surprise. But the point is that if you dedicate yourself, the body understands this, and you don't need anything externally in order to pull it off, right? So this is a key point to kind of what we're talking about here today, because I'm never going to tell you guys, go and take this supplement because you need it to succeed. Go and take blah, blah, blah. I'm not even going to say the sentence with steroids or TRT in it, because I don't want somebody walking by to misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm saying you do not need any of these things for your win. All you need to do is dedicate yourself to the mentality of winning. And once you do that, you'll realize that you can go farther with your willpower than you ever thought possible. Like I said, though, if you do wish to incorporate some of these things after you've already incorporated all of the other things I mentioned, mindset, the ability to do things you don't want to do, changing your mindset or philosophy, any of these things that really help you on an internal level build all of these functions, then if you wish to incorporate something like, or choose rather to incorporate some of these things like the supplement I talked about, DIM, then that is a much more optimal way to approach it. And also from the premise that I know in my heart I am already giving 100% in the gym. So when I take this supplement, it's only going to propel me over those plateaus. That is the purpose of taking a supplement, is that I've hit a plateau. How do I get over the plateau? Or I've run up against something that is somewhat of an obstacle to me. How do I get over the obstacle? And it's not doing that every time. You've already learned how to do that as something that's part of your nature. The only thing you're doing is increasing your results, right? So if somebody is taking creatine, for example, they should already have their gym routine down. They should already have their lifestyle down. They should already have their diet down, because all of these things are fundamental to you building the body you want. And creatine is only meant to assist that process. It's an assist. It's not a crutch, right? So even though the video today isn't even about creatine, even though it might even help indirectly improve testosterone. Again, I'm not emphasizing that you guys take that either. But my point is that all of these things which you implement, I'm just realizing now the sign is a little off, but in any case, it doesn't really matter. My point was that you should utilize the most natural way to make you optimized as an athlete. And when you do that, you will ensure that you are the best version of yourself. Because like I said, you're not going to be reliant on a supplement. You're not going to say that I need this in order to succeed. You will know that success is something internal, right? And that's the ultimate thing that happens when you decide, hey, I am that guy. I am the guy who could pull it off when I don't have my pre-workout with me. I am the guy who can pull it off when I don't take protein shakes. I'm the guy who can pull it off when I don't take creatine, whatever, caffeine, XYZ, right? The only thing, like I said, you need for your win is dedication. You need to see your goal throughout, whatever time span you are operating on. You need to see, at X day, I'm going to achieve Y, right? I'm going to have this physique by this time. And this is actually, I'm no big fan of Arnold, but one of the things that he did preach while he was bodybuilding is visualization and seeing the end result that you are aiming for. Because I saw this actually recently in a piece of content. I saw it on social media, and it was saying that essentially a lot of people, talk about, oh yeah, the BS of manifestation, that, oh yeah, you have to visualize and then it comes true. But it seems a bit airy-fairy, right? But the fluff is that you sit around and do nothing, and visualizing it alone makes it happen. No, visualizing gives you the mark of which you are aiming for. You must take action. That is the next part. And this is why, like I said, action and testosterone are so linked together, and why it's so linked to your mentality and your viewpoint of the world. One of the things that you can even realize about testosterone being linked to mentality and being linked to strength and being linked to willpower is that the word mentality starts with men. M-E-N, mentality. So no wonder why it's linked to these hormones, right? You classify testosterone as the male hormone. Why is it the male hormone? Because it's linked to mentality. So anyway, my point is that all of these things that you are aiming for, you must visualize in your mind, and your body will achieve it. And not by you sitting around and just daydreaming about it. That might be part of it, but if you don't implement the action afterwards, nothing is going to happen. So you need to have a goal, and you need to move through it with intention. And maybe we'll go to the next image now, because I know I ranted a little bit there, guys, but I just want to emphasize that point. So here we got the picture up. And, okay, so yeah, we have me in the top corner. So here, we see kind of the outline of testosterone in the, male-female paradigm. So here you can even kind of read over things yourself. Testosterone is necessary for sperm development. Elderly men maintain their normal testosterone levels, reduce risk of cardiovascular disease. So testosterone increases muscle development, strength, etc. So you can read over some of this that's currently up on the screen. But all of these are important information to take note of, because obviously as you grow, your body changes. And typically as a guy, your testosterone it's on its run up. It's like a tidal wave coming in. And the wave run up is only at its peak really when you start to get into your 20s. That's when it's really hitting it's winding up, if you will. You can almost think of it like, somebody winding up for a pitch, or, winding back on a punch or whatever. Like, say you're about to throw the left hook or whatever, right? You have that little dip before, you let it go. This is like the same concept that we're talking about here in terms of that testosterone going up. So testosterone is really related to age, and you really want to have this premise that I must optimize it as efficiently as possible. And if you stick around to the end, I will give you guys tips on how to improve your testosterone naturally, apart from the supplement I mentioned so far. In any case, I digress. Maybe we'll pull up actually the next image. I did want to note something on that image too that we're on, that if you looked at the image, one of the things you will have noted is that it did say that men who fall in love and have very romantic feelings when they're in their relationships, their testosterone goes down. And this is actually something that's both a physiological and psychological phenomenon which they've measured. And one of the things we will also note is that it's shown that, like when a woman is pregnant, when their like counterpart or their male counterpart is around, in the vicinity of them, there's actually almost pheromones released that actually makes male testosterone go down. And the reason why that is because you don't think the same way after you have children or after you're in love or in a happy relationship the same way you do when you're like, you're free as a bird, you're in your 20s, you're working hard with your boys. Testosterone is booming at that point in your life. It's telling you take risks, it's telling you be ambitious, it's telling you go towards your goals, saying don't let anything get in your way. It's saying that, nothing can touch me on this planet. That's what testosterone is speaking to you when you're like 20 years old. But when you fall in love or you get married or you have kids, testosterone goes down because it's trying to tell you, oh, don't take risks, live your life more cautiously, you have to be aware of other people. It's telling you be aware of all these factors, so it doesn't want you to live life recklessly, right? So, but the thing that I will always say, because I know that some of you out there who are almost have the true warrior mindset are saying I'm not gonna let my testosterone be affected by XYZ. I get where you're coming from, and I will actually give you some little tips here which actually might assist with that not happening. Is that one of the things that I always say is that you must internally maintain a state of objectivity and emotional I would say detachment from situations, right? So you love that girl with all your heart, but at some level internally, it's good to let go. And not just because relationships and things end, but because you should be able to choose when you express emotions towards certain things. Emotional control is very important. And that's why you see people who are very controlled by their emotions. They don't make very objective or sound decisions some of the times. Probably a lot of the times. Why is that? Is because your emotions have an influence on your mental decisions and your mental operations. And the thing to do is to make sure that you can stay in a state where you are objective and detached enough from your emotions, or are strong enough to overcome that influence. And by doing either of those things, one of the things that you will guarantee is that you make emotions more soundly. You make the right decision. And the reason why you do that is because you can listen to the internal silence inside of yourself. And you can it's almost like you can sit back in your chair and relax and see the world from a third person perspective. This emotional event that happened, that made me angry, that made me sad, that made me happy, that made me, feel this strong emotion for this girl or whatever, is it really viewed in the grand scheme of things, in relativity to the cosmos? Is this a significant event? And once you realize that you can stay in an objective state and still engage in things in the outside world, you will negate some of those factors which hinder your progress, like your testosterone going down when you fall in love, right? Falling in love and all of these things, basically everything that you experience in life is chemicals in the brain that telling you should feel a certain way. So when you are in a state where you can actually distance yourself from that emotional reaction that you are instinctively geared to have, oh, this made me feel sad, that made me feel happy, whatever, you can overcome those boundaries and you can tell your body to make the chemicals that genuinely benefit you instead of the ones that are just somewhat fleeting and just in the present moment, right? So always stay in an emotional objective state, and emotionally detached is important. And I don't mean detached as in just cold and unfeeling. I mean detached in a sense in, okay, well, I'm feeling this emotion in this moment when I'm interacting with this person, but can I detach from that and choose, or rather, I should say, that in this moment where I'm interacting with this person, what is the emotion I want to allow myself to have or allow myself to express? Is it anything out of the neutral state that I'm currently in? If it's not, then you don't let that person control you or influence you in any way, right? If it is, oh, I do want to express an emotion, maybe it's because that person actually means enough to you to say, okay, well, I can allow myself to actually, feel contentment in this moment, or, feel this way in this moment, because this is somebody I genuinely connect with, or I am allowing myself to have this experience in this moment, right? So, and this is pivotal too, don't forget to basically, now I'm just making sure all the letters are there on the sign. No, but this is pivotal too. Can you go back the last image? This is pivotal too to essentially making sure that you are who you want to be at the end of the day, right? So don't let people control you emotionally, because that impacts every one of these hormones in the system, right? It impacts cortisol, it impacts testosterone, it impacts estrogen. Like I said, they're all a musical symphony that is playing together. You disrupt one of the motions, you disrupt all of the motions, right? So, and with this, it becomes imperative that you understand that, hey, if I have this down, if I have my emotional neutrality down within myself, if I have that emotional neutrality down, and emotional balance and emotional centeredness within me, I can ensure that nothing in the field will cause me to come out of the state that I choose to be in, right? And once you make that commitment, it almost becomes like a thing that you perpetuate, and you will instinctively gear yourself towards interacting with people that aligns with where you genuinely want to go in your heart. Because the heart does not lie. Emotions lie all the time, That girl told you she loved you. Oh, like now you feel like you're walking on sunshine. Then when she says she breaks up with you, then you feel like depressed or whatever, right? Like none of that matters. Like, it should be, and like a lot of people let this throw them off in life, how other people perceive them or tell them stuff, right? Oh yeah, I'm feeling like I'm walking on sunshine. I feel good enough to go to the gym, right? And then, that girl breaks up with you. Oh, I feel depressed. I want to stay at home. I don't want to do anything. No, it should be, that girl tells you she loves you, you go to the gym. That girl breaks up with you, you go to the gym, right? There's no difference in your action or your mentality. It's like that girl is gone now, right? So this is the basis. And the reason why I'm using this as an example is this is something that we see so much on social media in terms of a trend that, oh yeah, that girl left, you're motivated to go to the gym, or you're depressed and don't want to do anything or whatever. That should have no impact on you whatsoever, right? Because the thing is, if your heart is in the right place, like I said, your heart does not lie. Emotions lie all the time. And emotions are just, it's chemicals being released into the brain to tell you to feel a certain way. So if somebody can influence how you feel through your emotions, then you are susceptible to influence by that person. And somebody can control you like they would a puppet, right? And this is why so many people get controlled by things like news media, right? And that impacts all of these hormones as well. If somebody can put on news that is going to make you stressed out, they're controlling your hormones, they're controlling you. So, and that's exactly the way the system works, right? So being aware of all these things in society, which are entrapments, and meant to take your power away from you is important, because if you actually apply yourself in the right way, you can negate all of those things from happening. The only thing you need to do is grow into the person you are meant to be. So, in essence, though, if we look at this graph, we can even see throughout the ages, we have things like in females, you have menopause, right? Where basically the estrogen is like, fluctuating, and it's not making the experience very very enticing, right? Or very productive. But again, there's things you can take for that. I'm not going to comment too much because I actually don't know too much about that process. So I don't want to steer you guys wrong. But like I said, supplements like DIM are meant to help with estrogen metabolism. That's all I'll say. I'm not recommending anybody take anything. I'm not a doctor. This is just what has worked for me. So, but again, we can see in the male body here, getting back to testosterone, you can see a dip after 20 years old. So typically when you're in that age range, you have that spike. Like I said, up until that age range, it's like you're winding up for that punch, right? Or you're winding up to throw that ball, or you're winding up for something. You're pulling the spring back, right? So, and this is the thing, like, there's another chart. I don't know if it's in here or not, but if it is, we'll get to it later. Actually, I think it is. It's probably in the next image, but for now, we'll stay on this. But here we can see, like, that line is exponentially increasing up to 20 years old, and then it's dropping down after. Why is it dropping down? Because as you get older, you're, typically you get weaker, right? And unless you're, like me, like almost like an Asgardian, where, as you get older, you get stronger and you get more powerful, and your will becomes stronger and sharper, and you become wiser and all these things. If you dedicate yourself to that path, you can negate these symptoms too, right? This is a traditional outline based on the aging of human beings, right? But it's almost like, I'm not about to give you guys the Batman speech here, where if you dedicate yourself to an ideal and the testosterone drop can affect you, then you become something else entirely. You become testosterone man or whatever. But my point is that so we got some guys outside the show watching, so shout out to them. But in any case, getting back to this, it's not like you become testosterone man, but you do improve your life by a great degree, because you negate the detrimental effects that occur to your body over time, right? So the biggest thing, like I said, is just, can I make myself a formidable opponent? Can I make myself and my growth so exponential that the amount of time it will take for like any kind of negative consequence to take effect, it will take so long that it's not even possible, or will not even happen at all? Because like we've talked about so many times, everything in the cosmos is just energy. If you can overcome that potential deficit, then you can negate that effect. It's like it's like the biggest splash in the water wins. You can almost think of life like a pond, like a clear, still pond. And one person is like, let's say somebody throws a pebble into the pond, and that it causes a little ripple, a little distortion in the energy field, which is a drop in your testosterone. If you're able to throw a bigger rock into the pond and make a splash that is vibrating, saying more testosterone, more sets, more reps, endless sets, endless reps, basically never becoming tired ever, and just continuing to rise and rise and rise up into a greater level of power, then that is also going to be received to the body, right? So again, like, sometimes it is the mightier sword wins, right? And the way that you need to wield that sword is to make the sword lighter. Like, I might sound insane right now, but I'm like yelling to myself in bed last night, I will not sleep until my sword becomes lighter. And the basis of that is, you are that sword. You are the instrument of your will. You are that derivative of your soul. So You are that instrument that can accomplish anything you put your mind to. The only thing you need to do is become that person who can wield that sword effectively and become so strong that that sword becomes lighter, right? So, or appears lighter. So the important thing to do always is believe in yourself. You know, this graph, though I'm showing it to you guys now, what I truly believe is you should not let any of this take power away from you. The main thing you should dedicate your mindset to is, okay, this is the traditional graph for men and women and how their hormones change over time. How can I make myself not a statistic? How can I put myself in a position where I will win no matter what? How can I have every odd stacked against me and still win? So that is the basis for this. And we'll go to the next image actually with that, and we'll look at the age range specifically now. Says 18 there. I thought it said 8 the first time around, but in any case it doesn't matter, because the fact is that your testosterone is still exponentially increasing up until, you know, your 20-year-old age range, right? And if you're like me, if you're somebody who's really dedicated yourself to training and the path of essentially connecting with your soul as a being and establishing your individuality and making yourself a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor, and wanting to combat pretty much everything in the field and overcome it, then you should know that after 20 years old, it's only up from there. Your growth potential will only increase, because not only are you getting wiser, you're experiencing more, you're learning new techniques in the gym that can help. Maybe instead of doing full reps now, you're doing drop sets, or you're doing half reps or whatever. And all of these things will factor into you building up that testosterone, right? It will factor into your growth, because I've learned more, I've implemented more, I've changed my routine, I've moved things around. What has not worked for me, I have cycled out, and I've implemented new things that will now work. And once you implement those things and see the growth that comes from it, and see that, hey, time cannot constrain me. The laws of space and time do not apply to me, because I have the ability to overcome statistics. That can only be achieved when you basically transform yourself as an individual. I kind of like this quote which was said this one time around money and being successful, which was that essentially once you get rich, your personality, your character in the game is locked in to a degree, because people who become rich or get a lot of money typically they don't change their personality very much from that point on, right? So their qualities as a human being are locked in. You don't learn too many lessons after you become rich, right? So you basically have to do as much work in that period of time before you get to that point to ensure that, okay, well, I know that I have to go to the gym. I know I have to be a person of principle. I know that I have to commit myself to what I'm doing. I know I need to work hard. I know I need to be unable to get tired. I know that if my opponent gets tired before I do, then that means I win. As long as you know all those things before you reach your point of success, which you are ascending to, and that being getting rich, getting strong, whatever those goals are, that you have all of the criteria met, that ensures that you will be that person for the rest of your life, because the change will be minimal after. And why? It's like the same reason why people say, oh yeah, as a fighter at this point you're not hungry, right? Why is that? Because they have a ton of money and they won. The guy on the street corner, or the guy who's going to the gym and has to run there because he doesn't have a car, or the guy who's training like day, night, and whatever in the gym because he doesn't have any money and he knows he needs to win this fight to pay his bills, that guy is the guy who's going to win. Why? Because he has the biggest why. He has the biggest reason to win. He has the motivation behind him that says, this is what I need to achieve. Not I want to achieve, I need to achieve. And once you realize that implementing all those things leads to this testosterone impact, it leads to it going up exponentially, it leads to you overcoming being a statistic, it leads to you becoming a more combative individual and capable in any realm, then you win. That's what it takes to win. And like I said, the main factor or role of testosterone is making effort feel good. When I go to the gym at home a lot of the times, and sometimes this happens here, but typically, when I'm around going to the, like the public gym or whatever, like that's at the end of my day. So there's not much that I have to do afterwards. But even still, sometimes I will go home and make more content, or I'll go home and work harder, right? So because, like I said, there is always a next level to reach, right? But the basis is that essentially, if I'm working out at home and I'm working out during the day and I finish my workout, I will go and find more hard things to do. Why? Because my testosterone has been raised up since I've gone to the gym, right? And that's the thing. Testosterone makes effort feel good, so you want to do things that are hard so that you can get more testosterone, get more power, and feel good. So, and that is the essence of being a man for real, right? So is that you must do hard things and then you become a capable individual, right? So, and if like, again, this is just my perspective on this and how you should implement natural testosterone growth based on, the science of what is said around testosterone. But if you disagree with any of these things, then I don't know what to tell you in terms of how you're gonna boost your testosterone if that's the reason you're watching this, because everything that I've just outlined is a step-by-step guide in terms of what you need to actually meet this criteria of not letting yourself be a testosterone statistic of where it goes down once, oh yeah, you're 20 and you're an old dog now and you can't learn any new tricks and your testosterone's not bumping, and the life force, the vital life force, the prana is not bumping through your system like it used to. That should never be in your mind. Your mind should be, you should say, when I say my testosterone is going up exponentially after this 20-year mark, then my word is iron will. Why is iron so important? Because it binds the spirits as well. So when you say something, that is you speaking it out into the cosmos. So if you say my word is iron will and it will go up exponentially because I have said so, you implement that. And your body, if you say that enough times to yourself, your body will interpret that and understand that and say, hey, know what? This is what we're going to do. Why? Because he's repeated it enough times. He's gone to the gym enough times. He's implied enough times that this is what we need to do. Why don't we just do it? The plan's already in motion. The blueprint is already here. We already have all the steps lined out in front of us. It's impossible for the body not to do that. It's like putting somebody in a situation where they don't have access to anything that would make them want to grow, right? Like, let's say you put, somebody in a situation where they can just have unlimited everything. Unlimited money, unlimited cars, unlimited, guys or girls, whatever sex you are watching this, and, you just have all the resources you could ever want under the sun. You're not going to want to work hard or change yourself very much as an individual. Why? Because you have everything. It's the person who has nothing who has the mindset that actually makes them a feared opponent, because they know that, okay, well, I need to put in effort to actually become that person I want to be. Even if I do have all these things, or even if I do or do not have all those things, I should say, is when I implement this mentality, this will be who I am. So And this is the same reason why you see, like, a lot of like overweight politicians. Why is that? You see them out of shape and overweight and grouchy and just trying to connive and steal money, because that's who they are. They want to manipulate the world so they don't have to work hard. And this is the same reason why they have to take TRT. You see goofballs like Jeff Bezos, they're taking TRT because his testosterone's not bumping anymore, because he's a millionaire, a billionaire, right? So he doesn't have to work hard. Why don't I not just shoot myself up the easy way and never find the gym in my life, right? So I mean, all of these guys, like, they're goofballs, right? So if you want to be a genuinely strong person, a genuinely feared opponent in any realm that you go into, you must do things the hard way. You must take the hard route on purpose. And this is what I emphasize, especially when it comes to training. I'll tell you a little story, and then I'll get to the final tips that I'm going to give you for how to improve your testosterone. My friend in the gym, she's a fitness model. I've mentioned this actually before in the podcast. And one of the things she said to me jokingly, one of the times I saw her in the gym, was, you spend like 10 minutes talking to me, you should restart your whole set, right? This is what she told me. And she did so as a joke. I didn't spend 10 minutes talking to her. I spent like 5 minutes, and we talked a little bit about business while we were there. I was asking her how our modeling was going and whatever. She made this joke. I interpret that as serious, because the words have come out of somebody's mouth. The challenge has been issued for me to start from the beginning and do things the hard way. I must do them the hard way. The challenge has been issued. Do your set over. It doesn't matter if she was joking or not. I told her after, I took your words. I went and redid the exercise from the beginning, and she's like, I was joking, right? I was like, yeah, I don't care, because it makes it harder, and that's what I want. I want it to be harder. I don't want to take the easy way out. So, and we got into a whole, like, a little discussion about, the essence of OCD. And yeah, OCD, anxiety, depression, take all of that and forge it into a weapon in order to basically combat all of the obstacles in your life. And this is the main thing about testosterone in guys too, is that one of the main things you should do, having trauma in your life as a man, is take all of that trauma and forge it into a weapon which you can destroy your obstacles with, right? So, and that is hard to do. Not a lot of people can do that, right? So this is why doing things hard is the way to testosterone. I'll give you guys some natural benefits or natural ways to improve testosterone, and then we'll sum up. Let me take a sip of water here, though. So basically getting into natural testosterone in terms of external stuff. Things like garlic, onions, implementing those in your food, or, having them anytime you have access to them definitely helps. We obviously know weight training and resistance training, any form of exercise improves your testosterone. So, like, gym is probably the most natural because you're not putting anything in your system, right? We've already mentioned that. The next thing is foods that contain the stuff you need. Garlic, onions, full of antioxidants, full of almost acidic acid that makes things in your blood heat up, like not literally like a fire would, but almost chemically, and basically that dissolves actually the blockages in your veins and arteries and all the pathways in your body, and makes you like a I'm not going to repeat myself. It makes you a more combative individual. And it makes your testosterone go up. Some of the crazy stuff I will do during the summer when I have time to do this is during a rainstorm, I will be sitting out in the backyard eating a steak under my outdoor structure. And I will be eating garlic and being attacked by mosquitoes while I do exercise in the backyard during a lightning storm. People will look at you like you're crazy, and I'm out there like, just like yelling like Goku when he's powering up to get that last rep in and pushing the testosterone to the absolute maximum of its potential ability. Why am I doing that? Because it's difficult. And because it being difficult will in turn perpetuate that cycle, right? So garlic and onions, another great way in terms of food to actually implement that testosterone increase. So these are the kind of small little tips I have for you, and making sure you have things that are fueled with antioxidants in your body. And those are the main ones that improve testosterone, but not the entirety of antioxidants. But in any case, you can drink things like tea. Those also help improve your hormones and the balance between them, which, as we said, is important for testosterone. It helps manage stress, which is important for testosterone because it makes sure that you're not overwhelmed by cortisol. That's why you see men like Iro always, drinking tea and doing his fire bending, right? Is because tea calms you down. Tea makes you in a stilled state of mind. Tea makes sure you have antioxidants in your system that will make the system, keep going, right? So, and with that energy, all of the things around it become amplified. So when you eat garlic and onions, that amplifies it as well. That gives you those antioxidants, but it also gives you the testosterone increase that you're looking for. So that is the tips that I have for you basically around that today. And one thing I'll finish off with a little talk about the concept of love, which I talked a little bit about yesterday in a conversation, and I was saying that in terms of relationships and stuff like that, we see a lot in the 21st century that relationships have become shallow, love has become diluted. But one of the things that you should realize is that if you love somebody genuinely, and remember, love affects testosterone, which is why you have to make sure it's genuine love and you're able to be objective and listen to the internal wisdom of the heart, is that once you do that, once you ensure that, hey, I am in this position, that realize it's a love over lust. And the reason why I say this in relation to testosterone is everybody would agree that having genuine feelings in a relationship is much harder than just lusting over each other, right? It's genuinely hard to facilitate love with somebody. And doing things that are difficult and hard increase testosterone, and it makes you a stronger individual. So if doing something that is hard makes you strong, which is loving somebody, then the opposite of that, which is not loving somebody when you're in a relationship, or not having genuine feelings, or not being able to stick to somebody in a relationship, then that makes you weak. So that is the essence of what I'm saying today. That is the end of our show on how to raise testosterone naturally. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. The notification bell is down below. Click that. Make sure you stay up to date with everything that we will be posting. We will have a program coming out soon, which I will update you guys about, and there will be a new platform coming out for that. I will also give you guys the Rogers link to Moonstruck when I get that from the company. And remember to check out all my social media below. Check out my Instagram, top_sorcerer. Remember that all my other links for podcasting content, Sword of Mercury, on my other YouTube channel will be linked in the description below, as along with the link to Moonstruck. And we are out.